Well, it looks like it's Trekland HQ here, and we are live. Yes. What's your black hole of Star Trek now? Hmm? Episode 307 of Trekland Tuesdays now. Trekland Tuesdays live, in fact, with me, Dr. Trek Larry Nemechek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 with a side trip on a Trekland trek. Coming to you for some clarity, sanity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek. And it's another Tuesday. Welcome back if you're one of our veterans. And hey, if you're new to Trekland Tuesdays Live, thank you for joining us today. Whether it's live or local, I'll say. But if you're live, you can join in the chat, introduce yourself, say where you are. We have a global audience here at Trekland Tuesdays Live. We got folks on multiple continents. So hello, hello, hello. Thanks for another good to see you on another Tuesday, I should say. Yeah, this is I'm gonna swap things around a little bit and put the onus on you, but I think it'll be mostly not painful because today's topic is well, it's taking stock, letting, as we say on Second Opinion, letting the dust settle for just a minute. There's been a lot of Star Trek cranked out and a lot of adventure and storytelling and all that, but a lot of reassessments of where the Star Trek universe is. People wanted to go beyond Nemesis for so many years, and we've done that, even on the two animated series. And this one too. And then Strange New is filling in backstory that affects all of us. And Discovery is way out there in the future, but occasionally they reference something back. So I'm going to give you some time to work into this because we'll do a couple of news updates just because we have to. A little bit of lately what's gone on the last week around here, but I want you to be thinking, everybody in Chatland, is there something that all the recent treks, probably climaxed by Picard, have left you wondering? And if so, let me know. We're going to say that that's going to be where we are. Okay. Come on, let me. Yeah. Okay. Let us jump in with a couple of things that have been happening lately. Sorry for all the distractions here, everybody. Just really quickly, if you have not already seen them, I did a couple of lives, one on Facebook for the scene, but I interviewed a couple of our recent Discovery writers while they're on picket lines. This site was at Disney. There's sites all over LA and Southern Cal, and yes, in New York too. But of all of our Star Trek writers, almost none of them lived in Toronto or New York. Everybody was still LA based and dealt with the Toronto series, flying back and forth or just working from home in the pandemic or whatever. They're kind of re-gearing up again. And as I was mentioning last week and catching up with Aaron Walke over at Prodigy, the two animation series aren't technically affected by the current WGA contract and thus the strike. They're in the animation group tag, and they want to be in the SAG. That's their own thing. They want to be in the WGA, but they had a contract negotiation last year and made some gains, but they're not affected. So that's happening. So our live action shows, I talked last week. If you missed it, I'm going to do a summary also on Second Opinion here coming up, kind of be just a capsule view. But if you did not catch episode 306 last week, I went through the writer's strike and the history and what's going on currently and the impact. In fact, I did it several days before everybody else jumped in on the bandwagon. And by the way, I saw there was a headline yesterday about Strange New Worlds delaying start of production yesterday. Just like I said last Tuesday, which is funny. Anyway, I just didn't spell it out obliquely because I wanted to, again, kind of soft pedal the sources. But yes. So that's happening with the strike. I went out Friday and I talked to Carlos Cisco, the self-styled Captain Cisco, who's a group captain over at the Disney Main Gate site here down in Burbank. But people are all over, and talked to Terry Burton and Eric Robbins. So you want to go check that out. Some of the newer writers who also came up the ladder as PAs. The two guys came up the ladder as a PA, then writer's assistant, and then writer. which is a whole incubation, which is a whole mentorship system that's under threat right now because of the explosion, what streaming has done, streaming in small seasons, and this almost like freelancer drift that things are changing into, which kind of blows up the whole culture of the whole nurturing world of writing and puts everybody at the mercy of a gig economy. That's one of the things they're fighting. That's out there. So that was interesting. There's been a topic pop up too, while you're all thinking of your questions about current Star Trek settling, background questions. But there's been talk that if the strike goes this long, about the impact on Comic-Con. And maybe this is a topic for future if we see how things are flying. I'm getting mixed signals. Some of the writers I've talked to are thinking there will definitely picketing down at San Diego. What I can't get a handle on is if that would be picketing the entire convention, the whole San Diego Civic Center, Convention Center, plus the outlying panel sites, or if that would just be, say, picketing Hall H, because Hall H is where the studios present their big programs. Not so much in the smaller rooms, which, there's a lot of fan input here. Plus, it's not all TV and movies. There's comics, duh, and animation and games publishing and writers, prose writing. So a lot of aspects of Comic-Con's programming aren't there may be lots of sympathy, but they're not directly affected by the WGA strike, and that's a question that we may see rearing up, or other conventions. It's just that San Diego Comic-Con is the big, massive one that's close to LA that industry people would be involved with. No, I've asked that question. Would it just be Hall H? Would it be the entire convention? I've seen fans push back and say, hell yeah, I'll go down and walk a line. I've seen other fans say, wait, I've already spent thousands on my non-refundable airfare and my hotel. I don't want the thing to blow up because of that. What I enjoy is not affected by the WGA strike. So there's all of that. I've also seen a couple of writers go, oh my God, I just have to get to the next 2 weeks. That's July. That's the end of July. I'll wait. I'll worry about that later on. So there's something off on the horizon. And we've not been through that. We haven't had a writer's strike that overlapped the big summer cons, much less had a writer's strike in the era of the huge. For one thing, the 07 strike happened in November, December, January into February. Not height of con season, and much less when Comic-Con was on our radar. That exploded with Twilight, and that was just about the year 07, 08. It was just about the year Comic-Con exploded. But it wasn't the right time of year. So this would be the first time the Venn diagram of Comic-Con importance, in culture and a writer's strike in the summer to begin with overlap. So we'll keep an eye on that. But that's something that's I've started to question folks about. But also, there are rumblings. If you remember, I've talked about it. I've shared shots. I will again, of theme pickets as the strike wore on, just to keep interest up and keep people excited. And in 07, 08, there were 3 or 4 theme pickets. One of them was a Star Trek theme picket because of how many writers were out there and how many sympathetic actors and other Hollywood union guilds were out there, crew people and so on. And there is starting to be talk of another one of those. So stay tuned. Nothing definite yet, but that's a glimmer in a few people's eye. So we'll see how that goes. Of course, the idea would be for this to settle up in a week or two and all of this concern be for naught, and people just get back to work. But that's not what's going to happen. I should also say one thing to clarify for the rest of the country. A lot of this is especially aimed at Netflix, who remember 10 years ago, you just ordered DVDs from Netflix. That's all they were. And you got them in the mail. 10, 15 years ago, that was Netflix. So they've been kind of the Johnny come lately, don't have a big steeped history dealing with the whole machinery of Hollywood. They're an original producer fairly recently. And that's true of all the other tech producers. Apple Plus and Prime and all that. But reading between the lines, a lot of the ire is directed at Netflix for pushing the industry and the industry model and the way everyone works, not just writers, in this direction. On one hand, gosh, there's lots of content. A lot of people would seem to be working, but it's really working half as much, twice as fast. If that makes sense. Being paid for half as much, but demanded twice as much. And then the way that writers' rooms are nurtured along. And anyway, that's just an insight. That's just an insight. And a lot of people are giving up their streaming channels in protest for that to try to. I don't think that's going to make a big dent in things, but that's been one of the ways that average fans are trying to show solidarity for now. But that's kind of the last week's rumblings. I intend to get back out and go visit some more of the writers live here in the next week or two. We'll get back and do that after the first week's gone down with a Trek focus, especially as we have so many Trek writers that no one's heard from, much less seen on camera, really. Maybe if you're following their Instagrams and their Twitter feeds, you might be a little bit familiar with what they look like, but that's kind of an undiscovered country, as it were. So that's in the cards for around here, even as we start to delve into the summer a little bit. But today, special topic. This is going to drive us crazy on the edited edit for YouTube later. But again, this is going to be a chat-heavy day today, so I want to. That's a quick update, and I want to dive in and see how far we can get before it makes sense to take our small break and then deal with the parrot analytics and then come back into chat in general. So get your chat wings on. We're going to do a little earlier than usual today. I'm going to backlog and back scroll in the log and see what anybody's got for me. No pressure. No pressure. And again, remember, if you are on Facebook, you're only seeing the Facebook comments. If you're on Twitch or YouTube, you're seeing all of the chat. All righty. Okay, good. Hey, and maybe before we dive in, this is a good place to say I want to thank all of our Patreons. This is an update, yes. So, hey, thank you for the TTL Club. Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anne-Marie Siegel, Justin Porteous, Glinda Bruton, Chris Jiggins, Pranakasha Productions, Comedy Forecast. Thank you for jumping in the Patreons, and Andrew Jasimski. And then, of course, our live wires. Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Halbjörn Goodjohnson, Alan Hohensee, Dave Gregory, Tobias Rex, Donna S. Runyon, and Casey Shafsky. I want to thank you all for doing that. And as you know, I have a simple Patreon compared to a lot of folks. It's $5 and $10 a month. I set it up so folks could jump in and be supportive, and I do appreciate that. And we have gradually been spreading here. If you've been with us for the last 2 years or so, out of 6 coming up. Yes, 6 coming up. Don't tell anybody, but next week will be the 6th anniversary of Trekland Tuesdays Live. 6 goes back to when they said, Larry, just get on Facebook Live. Just get out there. Don't worry what it looks like. Just get out there. So anyway, I want to thank all the patreon.com/Trekland Live. It's about time to get the next wave of classic Portal 47 early years interviews with behind the scenes folks, backstage. That's what the $10 folk get. Everyone gets a shout out and my appreciation every week. And thanks a lot for that. Now I'll be back with some more, but I'm going to back scroll right now and see, it's okay. Should I give it away and say that, for one thing, my deadline for fistful of data in the official Star Trek magazine, do I have? Yeah. So, here's a shout out to the official magazine. My new one is down in my mailbox. This is issue 6. They retooled and rebranded as Explorer. So all those years you subscribed to the official UK magazine, which came over to the States when Communicator went down after the big blow up in 2007. It's been that, and then a year or so ago rebranded as Star Trek Explorer. If you are reading this, you may be familiar. How many years I've done this? Oh my God, it's been a while. It's been over 20. We started in 1998 with, fistful of data, boom. And then cannon fodder. So if we have any good ones today, you might be on the pile to be answered in print and be memorialized. So hope everybody's doing well again. And I'm going to dive in right now and we will see if anybody's got a real, an actual connect the dots, boom, an actual connect the dots kind of question. Christoph. We're so lucky Larry doesn't need a writer for TTL. Well, if I did need a writer for TTL, that would mean that we're selling commercials. And I was actually making money on this. So, be careful what you wish for. And hello, and thanks to you, Kyle. Let's see. Yes, comedy. I hope the strike ends successfully sooner than later, just for us, for the sake of the writers and everybody else in Hollywood as well. Because everybody else is, the reason there's sympathy striking is because this is all the issues affecting the writers are what affect everybody that works in the industry. And now there's starting to be the retrenchment. Yes. Part of the Duralta, part of the issue here is that now you've been seeing some profit statements this year going down, but the model that got set up, they've made tons of money, and the CEOs are making a ton. And the point is, they're talking about the demands of the writers would be just a fraction of the money pool that's out there. They have been doing just fine on profit since 2020 was a small profit year, but since 21 and 22, they've been doing just fine. And they're sucking up all the profit at the expense of the writers who initially came along in a weird experimental phase. But the experimental phase for streaming is over. And that's basically where we are. Same thing that happened 15 years ago with the experimental phase of what cable and what original premium channel writing was going to look like. Well, this is a comment, Christoph. Again, this is just early talk. So there you go. Okay. But I think people get that. This is part of the angst there. I'm just saying. It's the AMTPS is the producers unit is representing everybody. But if you ask writers, the main angst is about Netflix. And when Amazon started off as an online bookstore, absolutely. Except delivering books seemed to make more sense at the beginning than mailing DVDs. It was a little less far out. Oh, sorry, Wade. I just licked the last of the candles. Well, this is a concern, Scott, because you've got babies. I mean, you've got infants new to this. I think the corporate culture is not steeped in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s to get where we are today. It's, another batch of wunderkind that just jumped in with a fresh idea because they were going to, sometimes fresh ideas do revolutionize the world. And sometimes they just F it up. Well, there you go. When the capitalists eating themselves, people say that FDR here in the States saved capitalism from eating itself. It's the extremes. It's when the guardrails go off. Yes. Do you have time to order a pizza? And yes, thank you, Comedy 4. You got DVDs in the mail today. Yes, the center seat. Oh, okay, but no problem using in your region drives. Okay. Quite a budget set, but a cool gapping cardboard case plug-in. Well, there you go. Well, there's 3 uncut interviews, an original one with Leonard from a few years back, and then Kirsty and Nichelle. Okay, everybody. Is anybody going to help me out here? Are we going to have a short show today? Okay. Have we? Okay. Well, I meant canon questions. We're talking, we're talking not in universe comedy. Have we heard any rumbling about official Trek cons coming back? Not Vegas. Not that I've heard. There might be. Well, here's the thing: you've got to find other companies on the scale of Reed. That's what the corporation wanted. Will some of the other convention companies out there, will they rise and go to the challenge? I think what CBS Paramount was looking for was a legit company, not a fandom owned and operated, from the roots up. And those companies are not a dime a dozen. They're not a dime a single. And that's kind of the loggerheads that things are at right now. Do the picket lines block non-writing staff from entering studios? No. In fact, there is at least one called a neutral gate at every site. And that's allowed to get supplies in for non-working people. But no, I mean, the work is going on in offices, etc. It's the creative places that are tied up. In fact, Friday, when I was at Disney, there was a tiny issue, and there's whoever the office folks, corporate, somebody inside is tasked with dealing with, they coordinate. It's kind of like somebody is sitting in the guardhouse at the Korean border, right? On both sides. It's like whoever the strike captain is that's out front has got a designated thing. In fact, that was Carlos the other day for his shift. There's a strike captain, and then there's at each site, at each shift. And then there's 1 or 2 assistant coordinators, whatever. But because there's a sign-in table, like I signed in as a non SGA. SGA, no, not SAG. WGA. I signed in as non-union or from another union list, and then they had the strikers list over here. But they have donations of food and snacks from companies that want to support the picketers. So there's a shade tree there. They have, on the sunnier days, they've got, protectant sunscreen. So but somebody the other day had ridden over on their bike and had tied their bike up on a little piece of fence between the drive-on gate, and there's lights going. There are a lot, at Paramount, the famous front gate there where they picket. But here at Disney too, the front gate to Disney, not on Buena Vista, but on Alameda. And there's a light there, and the light changes, and the picketers obey the light. And so when it's, when the cars would be turning in and out of that gate, they can come in and out. It's more of a conscious decision. And then, of course, as you listen to that video, you see all the traffic flying by, and probably 3/4 the cars passing are honking, and sometimes they honk very loudly. And almost all of the big trucks driving by are honking big time. That's a 4-lane street with a middle turn lane. No, but the other day, just while I was there, somebody had ridden over, chained their bike to a little piece of fence in between a pedestrian door and the gate, the edge of the gate for the drive-through. And so the bike was longer than this, 4 or 5 foot section. So it was bumping out on either side. And at one point, somebody from whoever the coordinator from the corporate side, from the Disney side, came out and talked to Carlos about just finding the owner for the bike and moving it. So because it was sticking into the 2 gates, not to be, and it was very polite and everything was cordial. And it wasn't them trying to be weird. He said, they just didn't want a lawsuit if somebody gets hurt. if there's a wreck or something. So, and that was like, so that's kind of the level of the, it's not quite to red phone level, but so there is that. It's not this pitched, at least where I saw. Now, I saw a site in New York City at a strike section where a show that had not been I want to say Deadpool at one of the smaller, one of the series that had not intended to they had their scripts written. Now, unlike Strange New Worlds, which has shut down for people not wanting to cross lines and also not being able to have writers make page changes as they shoot, which happens if you don't want the quality of the writing to suffer as you get along, or as you have to make changes due to somebody suddenly not being available, and you have to juggle characters. Lots of reasons. But that's what rainbow scripts are as shows are shot. So Strange New World shut down production. There are some productions that are trying to go on and shoot, depending on the nature. One such show in New York was going to proceed and shoot. And a bunch of Teamsters sympathetically showed up to block the gates. And now they can't get freight and they can't get in. And they're having to shut down the show, and they weren't planning to. So there's old school union striking tactics there in play. So I'm sure little flare-ups are happening around, and I've saw some chatter if you follow some of the accounts of people. There was a big meeting on the second day night, Tuesday night last week, or Wednesday night last week. There was a big combined WGA and leaders from SAG, from Directors Guild, from IATSE, from the Teamsters, all met in kind of a big unity meeting and talked to the mainly writers, but to their leadership of all those unions talked. And I saw it reported in people's socials. I don't know that I saw a news story about it, but then I never looked. But it just dawned on me that that's a big out of the gate on the end of the second day. Here's where we stand. So to answer your question, there's at least one gate where people can get in. A lot of times the drive-throughs aren't affected at all because the picketers are observing the traffic lights. The story I told you from New York was apparently not a light and was a blockable gate. And I don't know what the next chapter, if somebody came out and made peace about that, or if they're still stuck not shooting. This was not a trek, but if they were still not shooting when they intended to be shooting. And maybe somebody else has kept up with that. I haven't, that's just off the top of my head. Deralta Trekkie. As a writer, fanfic asks myself, how much money does one get if one writes a Star Trek book? How much money do people like David Mack get? Okay, well, for one thing, Deralta, you're talking about prose, written words, writing. The WGA strike is about script writers. Okay? So prose writers would love to get, prose writing is such a one-off thing. We're only talking about it as a group. It's different situations, different experience levels, and it's a far smaller group of people than the WGA is, even though the WGA isn't huge. But writers are not pen and pencil, ink, read the story, narrative prose writers aren't unionized. They might wish they were, but that's even far more individualistic than the process. And it's a one-to-one. It's you and an editor, and then some printing press somewhere puts it out. TV writing involves, you're a cog in a big machine, and the writers are the first initial wheel. And it's something you can't fake. Even AI is not going to be able to fake it. So, yeah, there have been some interesting, funny cartoons about that. And they've been popping up on people's strike signs. So how much money do you get? You might get a few thousand upfront on your royalty. And because it's licensed as opposed to your original, you're getting just a small percentage. And even the people that have clout, like when Shatner would do novels and he would get paid a little more because they're thinking it's going to sell because his name's on it. But it's just a standard little amount, a few thousand. And that's why if you're going to do this, you either have a day job or you do this constantly over and over again. And if you watch a lot of the truck writers now, they enjoy writing, and they're good writers, and it takes a talent to come in and work in a genre. But a lot of them are, and I ask everybody's support, whether it's David, whether it's Dayton, who it might be in the Trek pool. Everybody is developing their own lines, because they may not sell as many books, but they'll make way more per book. So it's an interesting game. But no one is getting rich writing licensed fiction. I'll just say that. Even if you do it constantly, you need other avenues to bring it in, especially if you intend to have a family, much less a house, in the Midwest, much less on the coasts. But that's not really what I was looking for today. Okay, Cairo. Do I think, and thank you, do I think the Strange New Worlds Lower Decks crossover will be somewhat like that Phase 2 episode discussed in Trek Files today? After all, the 2D animated people are crossing over into the 3D live-action world. No, I think the joke of that pitch, and hey, everybody, go check out Trek Files today. I think the pitch, the whole point is to be that. I think the crossover Lower Decks Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks does not exist in a 2D world. We don't see the Lower Decks characters turn end to end and just see them as a skinny line, and then they're popped out. Lower Decks is displayed in a 2D world, but they don't inhabit a 2D world. So Strange New Worlds is displayed in a 3D world. Prodigy is displayed in a 3D world. So that's just our media. But the story people are all, fleshed out. Otherwise, Tom Paris would have suddenly become two-dimensional, plate or no plate. Otherwise, Quark and Kira would have suddenly become two-dimensional. So, spoilers. So, no. The joke is all in our head as a viewer, but it's not part of the storytelling. And I think I see your wink at the end there, but thank you for bringing it up. How much money does an author get for writing a script for Trek or coming up with a show concept? Oh, well, I can tell. I'm not familiar about the scale, but I can tell you, I believe when Janet and I sold the story for Prophecy, which became Prophecy, I want to say the story sale was, oh my gosh, I used to know this. I have a Xerox of the check somewhere. Of course, it was split between us because we were separate writers. We were a team. If we'd been a single writer, we would have got the full amount. But as it was, we got a check and we split it. I mean, it was pre-split because we both had to submit. We both had to join the Writers Guild, and we had to pay our initial small dues until it recognized that we had a full-time salary. We were associative members for 3 years. And now I'm trying to remember if it was 5 or 8 or 10,000. And then at every stage of the way, you got an add-on fee. But the contracts are out; they're public. There's historical. That would be something else to talk about too. But that's what it was. And then obviously we worked on a script with a story draft. We got kicked around so many times over the years immediately. And then by the time they seriously thought about doing it, they needed to do a script in-house, which is what happens to a lot of first-time story sellers who are anxious to climb the ladder. Sometimes the time factor, which is likely gone away in these short seasons, which could be a bonus. More people might get nurturing time. But then the pipeline in is so much smaller than it was then. Now the big thing is just get hired in as a PA or a writer's assistant, and you've said, I want to learn the craft. It's not just I'm here to answer the phone, PA, or I'm here to distribute pages, PA, or I'm here to answer the phones, writer's assistant. It's someone who really wants to climb the ladder, and that's where they're pulling from within. And you'll see that if you see the video live I did from Friday down at Disney with Carlos and with Rob and Eric and with Terry Burton. But you get add-ons for each part of that. So when you would hear about Gene talk in the 60s, talk about cutting off writers, it's where it comes in-house to be written, or happens. If you see all those names on a script, that's what happens. It's people that at some stage of the game were paid for, but then were cut out of the final process. And even if you see only one name on the whole thing with a written by, it still might have been a little premise they bought from somebody for $500, like a one-line, one-paragraph premise, never fleshed out into an entire story. And I will say, even though it sat for 6 years and they brought it back and it greatly changed from our original pitch because it had to, it'd been 6 years later of development. I was very appreciative of, by then, Ken and Brannon for keeping us in the writer's pool of names. Being split among 6 people is still not, for royalties, for residuals, is still not as bad as not being split at all. I mean, in the splits. Okay. Gosh, I was really hoping for canon background questions, gang. Did I not clarify that? Yes. Mission Vegas is, Mission Las Vegas. Okay. See, it's STLV. It was STLV before it was licensed. It's still Star Trek Las Vegas. That was never connoting a licensed con. But it's the most Trek convention. Now, I'm hoping that the Trek Long Island, which comes up in a couple of weeks, which I've been talking to them about, I'm hoping it's going to be a huge success and manages to take off after this year and stick around. That would be another huge one. But right now, Trek Vegas is about as Trek as you can get in the States. Now, you've got Destination. You've got Destination in Europe, and hoping they get going, except for the cruise. Exactly. Hey, Diana. And everybody else popping in. Just to repeat, no, there was one season of 11 episodes, Mona. And 2 of them were the add-ons they did late that are more topic than they are chronological. Are Parrots writers on strike too? We'll see, Christoph. I'm not sure. Let's talk about the Con of Wrath and how that's progressing. Oh, let's not, Justin. No, there are things in the work to restart the post-production end. One of 2 plans, and one of them is much better, and that's in talks right now. So the shooting is all done. So here's an interesting thing. Why did Starfleet want fleet formation, given how Borg-like it is? Well, hindsight's wonderful, isn't it, Zahir? They were talking. See, it's the miracle of technology and coordination. But it's a metaphor for our times, I think. It's it's like, how do you exploit the strength? How do you exploit the strength's one weakness? I was kidding about the torpedo tube down the maintenance shaft, but it's kind of the same thing. But think about what they must have been smarting from. Was it maybe a reaction to the synth attack on Mars? What were the perceived weaknesses coming out of that? Had something happened between 2285 and 2401? 2305, 2385. And I mess up you know what I mean. Picard century and New Century, not Kirk century. But that's good. Oh, 8 days since news broke about Paramount removing the CW from its 8 TV stations, including Seattle's KSTW. I had not kept up on this, Donnie. That's interesting. Disney cast members, as in theme park character actors and employees, yes, had their union disputes over wages earlier this year, and it went on for way too long. At the end of it all, they got what they wanted, but Disney certainly didn't give in immediately. Well, yeah, part of this is the classic old school, we'll just wait you out because I'm older and I have better insurance. Yeah. Well, talking to Aaron Walker, who reminded me that the whole reason animation writers aren't with SAG, I keep wanting to say SAG, aren't with WGA, is because Uncle Walt just had them denigrated to story people. There were the drawing people and the story people, and they were all, and because he's animating, 3-minute cartoons, and it's denigrated anyway. The whole reason there's a quantum generational drop-off in animation writing, which the world is kind of intruding upon now, and the changes in media and cartoons are not just 3-minute theater or Saturday morning quickies. And interestingly enough, Fox Network for the prime time for Simpsons, for American Dad, yada yada. They're on SAG scale, and Disney's purchase of Fox has put pressure on new primetime half-hour animation to just go on the tag scale, which is a quantum leap down from 20% lower or more. I need to check that. Question: where is Admiral Janeway at this time? She's off somewhere. She's definitely there and mentioned because she was part of Seven's admission into Starfleet in just the last year or so, in between season 2 and season 3. She's in the sound booth recording her Prodigy lines. That's where she is, showing up for her statue ceremony in Bloomington, which, if you saw, was forget it. Okay, Zahir. Thank you, though, Zahir, for coming up with stuff, keeping this going. Duralta, yes, except we're talking about screenwriters and scriptwriters, not book authors. Just so you know, this strike does not involve people writing novels. It might be a scriptwriter who writes a novel on the side, or a novel writer who has sold their first script and they had to join that's fine. But people who only write novels they're not a member of the WGA. They're not covered by the contract. They don't have a stake in this. Now, if they want to be a sympathy picketer, anybody, yes, can show up. Now, if you just think you're just the coolest little snot face since sliced bread and you show up to make trouble, well, the minute you do, you will be asked to leave. But it's, they're down in this, now it's getting sunny and it's going to start getting warm and sweaty. But like, I had talked to a couple of people on the side. They told me where they were. I showed up. I signed in, and I could have picked up a sign and as it was, I was helping, giving some vent to the voice that way. But I walked the line. I'm a one-time SAG associated member. In fact, I did a name badge. It said Larry Nemechek, WGA member 1995 to 99. So yes, theoretically, anybody can grab a sign, and that they do it with nefarious purposes in mind, they will be outed and they will be asked to leave. Stand with the WGA. SJ Stargate Atlantis. I know. I don't know where that came from. The WPA, the WG. There's an old song, an old rhythm and blues song from the 30s by some, one of the African-American rhythm groups of the 30s, kind of like the Ink Spots, only earlier. And it's called the WPA, the Works, the New Deal program that built things, public works and such, and put people to work. Works Progress Administration, the WPA. And I was just thinking we could adapt that to WGA. Why does Wesley never, boys here, you're just cranking them out. Why does Wesley never visit his mother, or his father for that matter, since he apparently can now? Well, what is it Beverly said? Space claimed him. I lost him to space. What was that line? Because he's off doing busy traveler stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's because now he knows he's got a half brother and he feels awkward. Mom, I can save the galaxy, but yeah. Interesting bit there. That's a question I'm wondering if Terry or somebody else has put. I know they've been asked about Wesley. Maybe he's there, but Beverly doesn't see him. Okay. Did I see the pick? No, I haven't. You have to put a link in. But then again, I've been trying to get caught up on a ton of stuff. I'm actually making progress. Hey, Mike, the real black hole is the friends we made along the way on Prodigy and Lower Decks, and whether Frontier Day killed them on screen for extra drama points. How can 399 ships be the entire Starfleet? Well, I think they're starting to say that they're obviously not. There are some pulled in from out the border. 399? I thought it was more like 330 or something. Visual Effects Sean told me that they started with about 380 ships. And then, of course, I knew it would happen. I just didn't think Jorg would get on it as fast. I started to do what Jorg did, and I thought, this is going to take hours. I don't have hours. But he came up with what, like 329 or something, I thought. Anyway, but Terry and such, Dave Blass have been talking about how it's not the entire fleet. People are being hyperbolic. Exaggerated when they say, oh, the whole fleet's going to be there. Well, they mean a chunk of the fleet, or like more than have ever been assembled in one place before, which could be very true, but not the entire, like they're going to leave the borders unguarded kind of thing. But for once, the Enterprise was not the only ship in the sector, much less the quadrant. Yeah. But good question, though. That's a question, though, about the Prodigy and Lower Decks characters. Did any characters we have met in the 80s, 20 years later, no longer be with us? See, one of them's going to go to Borif and have a future vision that they're not going to make it out of Frontier Day 250. I have many questions about the changelings. Even though this was a small bit, did they infiltrate the Klingons or the RSE or even the RFS, the Romulan Free State, or just the Federation? Okay, I will tag that one. Thank you. I just wanted the black hole canon questions. I didn't say I was going to answer them. My guess is they did. I'm tired of this Huvan chauvinism. I am tired of this Federation chauvinism. I want everybody to be treated equal. I think there should be changeling infiltration, but the Klingons were paranoid already. And the Romulans are fractured now. That's like, well, great. This is all we have to deal with. We're already in pieces, and now we've got changelings. Oh, this is interesting because strike clarification tweak. Oh, dang. I can't open this, Christoph. I can't open this from. Can I? Yeah. I can't copy out of the chat here, as opposed to when we're in Portal 47 and I pull things out of the chat all the time. Why does Jack Crusher the Younger have a pic of his parents in 1990s formal wear? See, here, you don't know. There's a big pendulum swing and everything. Fashion goes around and comes around. There's a decade there where all the fashion in the Federation actually used the fabric side it was intended for. And upholstery fabrics were way out of style for a while. It was actually, they were just coming off the holodeck from a historical period 1990s piece. It was Dixon Hill Jr. Speaking of strange, the season 2 premieres a month and 6 days away, or so I have thought. Well, yeah. Was it June 15th? June 15th, 16th, yes. Hey, Jerry, wouldn't the writing be even better if the writers are given what they want? Imagine writing, but you're always thinking, well, that's the truth. See, this is what the thing is, Jerry. They used to have a system that worked. This 26 episode season world, that's what this was devised for. When everything so radically uprooted in just a short amount of time and no one react, this is just a pushback to reacting to, okay, well, if this is the delivery method now, and network didn't totally go away, but it's a vast minority. It's only 15-20% of the shows produced and the shows that people watch. So the old system works fine for the dinosaur fraction of the pie that still works that way. But most people and most younger writers coming into the system who need the leg up and to start to climb the ladder and need to gain the experience of, it's not just about the writing the script, it's how to write the script in a room with people, and then how to gradually gain production ability if you want to stick with the industry, and how it's not just you in your little room by yourself. This is how it is when you interact with fellow writers and then a production team. And all of that threatens to be blown up, much less the money scale of how they earn money. It's like, fine, then if we're going to only work 10 shows a year, then double the rates, which isn't going to happen. If I'm not going to work on 20 episodes a year, then pay me double for what I'm getting for 10. That's what they are. And all the old systems for their pension and their health insurance were set up assuming they would work a full year. So now they're scrambling, and now they can be cut out of projects. They spend time. There's a lot more onus on having to spec write, especially on new. And if you want to do a pilot and pitch a new show, you want to climb the ladder and be your own showrunner, sell your own show, and get to that, be a creator producer and have money forever. Well, you got to get it sold in the first place, and that means it's hard to do on your own. You need people in the room, and those people aren't even guaranteed. In a lot of cases, have to sign contracts now that aren't even guaranteeing them a piece of what they work on, much less be paid for it. And there are some situations where one person is producing an entire short season. One writer-producer is doing. There are other producers in other niches, but instead of having a room of at least 4 or 5 or 6 people, one person is handling the task that until now. I mean, it's insane. So you've got a few people making some money burnout on a reduced scope. It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's all been within the last 5 to 10 years. As the streaming explosion you witnessed as an audience, this is the toll it's taken. And it has repercussions. It's the same thing with directors and first and second ADs. And it's the same thing with all the crew folks. And everybody who's in whether you're in art or visual effects or you name it, set construction. So yes, you're too stressed to be creative at your best. That's the whole reason the system was set up. You were given a safety net. It's not meant to be a gig economy. And I'm not saying that Uber and Lyft drivers need to be treated like shit either. But driving people from place to place and coming up with something that's going to entertain millions around the world and support a profit structure that's going to bring money to a lot of people, and you're square one in that process, much less the people who are square 2 and 3 and 4. Yeah, exactly. See, I wasn't going to talk about the right. I was only going to talk a couple minutes about the writer's strike today because it feels like we've leaned into it so heavily. I wanted to get back out to Trek, regular Trek. So here you're just bucking to get 5 questions in my column next month. That's Hey, Duralta, on the topic of rainbow scripts, is every color designated with a certain draft? So what's red? The first, the last? Well, there is no red because that's too dark to reproduce. No, there is a certain color wheel and they're in order. And I used to be able to say them. It's blue, then pink, then yellow, then green. That's the first 4. And that's the most common ones. And then if you get to the end of the cycle, you are, there's salmon and buff and green tint, which is light green. Yeah, there's one that's orange, but it's not called orange. That may be salmon. But there are 10, and when you go through those 10 colors, then you go back to white. White is technically the first color, although people don't think about it that way. But when you run all the way through the color wheel, then you go back to white, and then blue, pink, yellow, green, and on and on. So yeah, it's not, they don't designate something, they just designate another one. And you know, as we've gotten away from so much paper, in the old days, if you've been in Portal, we've talked to all the script coordinators, including, you know, assistant script coordinator Janet, and we have pictures, and I've got pictures of Janet with a big stack of blue pages, you know, and by the time you're in production, when you're in draft mode, the only people seeing it are the writers and main producers. And then anybody that needs to be budgeting, like maybe the production designer who needs to start thinking about what they need to do for sets. But by the time you're in production, everybody, you know, 150 people are getting those copies. Now, that's altered in the digital era, and you can just send PDFs digitally. So that's saved a ton of paper there and put many a studio print shop out of business. Boy, this Christoph, you've got me. Oh, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Jonathan Connor, to get the yeah, Bill Wolkoff said, been meaning to update this, WGA Strong. Striking writer, co-executive producer. Left Star Trek Strange New Worlds because the studios and companies refused to bargain in good faith. What he meant was he went on strike. He didn't mean he left the show. And now it's been, I was trying to say this last week, it will be delayed. And now it came out Monday. Yes, it is. And I'm reading the tweet now. Thank you. Thank you, John, for putting this where I could grab the link. Bill says, I should clarify, I left the show because we're on strike. I love Strange New Worlds, and I love working on it, and I hope to return to it as soon as this is resolved, and I hope it's resolved soon, but that's up to the studios and companies right now. WGA Strong. And David Reed said, you better return. We have a script to finish. And David Reed is a consulting producer on Strange New Worlds, who I now need to follow, who previously must have come aboard for season 2. So there you go. And I did just follow him. All right. Thank you, gang, for setting that up for me. Okay. But we're here in the strike. Yep, I'm a writer, and I sit here and bang away at my laptop every day. What do you write, Mona? Well, this would be lovely, Doralta, but they're too individualized, and there is no need to be interlinked with anyone else. And it is a very lonely existence, one-to-one, and it would be great if they were, but that's why. Yeah, David, I just saw his resume. David Reed has a ton of, he's coming to Strange New Worlds, so his comeuppance got his come-intoance. David Reed, writer, executive producer on The Boys, previously on Magicians, Aquarius, Revolution, SPN, and Battlestar. Oh, and Battlestar, yes. So he's come full circle back to space, which is cool. He worked on season 2. Yeah. Okay, stop reading people's tweets. Get back to your show, Larry. Okay. Yes. Come on, go away. Hi, Rose. do I think the writer's strike puts their jobs in jeopardy to get replaced by AI? But I think they should get a decent wage. I hope AI is nowhere near being sophisticated enough to do this. So that's where we are. And they're taking steps to make sure that if suddenly there's a tech explosion in 2 years, before the 8 years or 10 or 15 duration of the contract, before it happens, to make sure that does not happen with some limits in place ahead. Oh, yeah. Speaking of Star Trek, yesterday I saw this. I didn't have it on my calendar at all, which was dumb. ST09, 14 years since the movie reboot debuted. It won a single Oscar. Yep. Sure, not everybody loved that movie, and you totally understand it, yet the score is among the few things very true. I will say this. I just said I thought it was well cast. And it kept Trek alive for all the people not otherwise paying attention. The mundane media, the mundane bean counters could go, oh, look, it's not totally dead. Star Trek isn't dead, in a Trelane kind of way. But did you notice how little a celebration there was for it? Now, maybe on a 15th there will be. But that's what struck me, was I didn't notice, and a lot of other people didn't either. Your top 3 shows now, Donnie, are Prodigy, Lower Decks, and Strange. There you go. Not so much Picard, neither Discovery. Okay, very good. Mike McDevitt, is Frontier Day too Earth focused to the point of insensitivity? Sure, we like Archer, but lots of non-Earth people made Warp 5 ships with their bare hands or whatever. Celebrate the Federation, not one dude. I know that when I realized that's what Frontier Day was. Frontier is still a word that to me it's like Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone stuff, which is very American, much less very human-centric. And in many people's eyes, problematic. So that's the whole, now space, the final frontier here comes from Space, the Final Frontier. It's a Zefram Cochrane quote now, as it's been retconned. So what can be so horrible about that? But I know. But they're sitting there thinking, what can we do? They knew it wasn't time to celebrate, say, Federation Day, 2161. Do they want to advance the calendar up 10 years and have it be, 61 to 11, 2511, which was floating out there for a bit, I think. But yeah, this did cross my mind. Duralta, is the U.S.-American strike system different than if German unions go to strike, you get your money from the union? Is that like in the U.S.? There is support systems, but those are funds those are doled out, but you don't get your entire wage. Yes. Cairo. Yeah, you have to, the minute you sell it's supposed to be, you have to be a union member to be pitching. And so in the Michael Piller era, if you actually were a non-WGA member already that sold, then you were like put in real fast. You made your sale contingent on the fact that you can't sell scripts and not be in the guild. So on one hand, you'd think, well, that's the easy way in. When some people, it's like, how do you become a member when you sell? It's that catch-22. So very much, yes. But I did sign into the strike as a non-member. Of course, that's also for if you're SAG or you're IATSE and you want to come, or a Teamster and you want to come support strike, you would sign in on the same clipboard that I did. And they have a new designation called pre-WGA, and it's a hashtag. So if you hashtag for pre-WGA, it's like people who want to be writers and they're actively working on it. And this damn strike has just blown up their audition system for a while. But they want to come because they know eventually when they do make it, they will benefit from the structure that these guys put in place, guys and gals and peeps. put in place, rescued, salvaged, brought back from the dead, brought into the 21st century. Yeah. What is this? Analysis of sci-fi. It's been a while since I've seen you, A. What's my opinion? More the concerts. Okay. You don't have to join the Writers Guild to be a writer. Analysis. What's my opinion? More than concerns virtually of the Guardian Forever episode of Star Trek TOS and its original writer. You mean the whole Harlan Ellison thing? Well, Harlan won I think a WGA award or a writers group award for his script, and Gene in the production won a WGA award for their script. So each version of the script won an award. Harlan's piece was not going to be producible as an hour of television, much less for television in 1966 anyway. So it would have been dead in the water as was. So it was rewritten to fit the format, as happened to everybody. It's just that Harlan got to make a career out of it. And there was a lot of the thing that Gene would do and go on with was a thing that really irked him. But look at how long it took Harlan to do that. Harlan made a whole career out of hanging out at the lot for 6 months, enjoying these people and taking advantage of it. It's just an interesting saga. You can read Harlan's whole side of it. You can read the corporate side of it too. Read Bob Justman and Herb Solo's book for their side of it too. But lots of people had made hay out of both sides of this. But no, Harlan's script would never, it would have said, okay, would have been just like every other script Bob Justman pulled his hair out over and said, well, this is not producible. Either we make it producible or we just lost the money we paid for the story. And sometimes it wasn't worth the money and time to try to make it producible. And there are many classic science fiction writers who have their names on scripts. I'm looking at you, Ted Sturgeon, for a muck time, whose script was they were like the, oh my gosh. They were like the Minoskis of their day. They had this wonderfully spread open, this wonderful expansive story, but you had to hem it into producible 48 minutes on a budget. Oh, Joe, we hardly knew ye. No, but Joe Minosky's still with us. I didn't mean to say that. Anyway. Oh, there's lots of, I haven't been down this path in a long time. Janet used to have these. There are good ones. Maybe we should get on that and see. Some of them have been people, who are on strike right now have turned around and put a book out there. And they may even be highlighting their books to sell while they're not working. Okay, well, good. It made sense not to. I mean, it didn't make any sense to stop calling it STLV. People equated that in their mind with it being licensed, but that preceded the license. Yeah, it was a great boon. It was either 8 or 10. It was the mid-90s, 94, 95. And then as you stepped up, there were they'd be every step of the writing process for drafts and subsequent drafts and all that. And you couldn't ask her. See, it's meant to end the way the system is set up. It's meant to end writer abuse, where you keep wanting drafts and how many people do you know in remodeling and construction and decor, artists doing commissions, where people want changes and they want changes and they want changes. And it's like after a while, it's like, I want to work with you, but I have now spent more time on it in your changes because you're a dipshit than I did making the original piece. And you didn't communicate up front. I'm not here to go broke so you can change your mind 80 times. Well, that's what the writing structure was set up to be. The deliverables with maybe 2 changes, right? And then after that, it's, do you want to do it or will we have somebody in-house do it? But if you have to go that many changes, somebody on the front end is not communicating well. Maybe the writer deserves to be cut off, but maybe somebody's not doing it right. Duralta, canon background question. Was it a joke on Memory Alpha, or did they really say that Buck Bokai played for the Gotham City Bats? Well, Bokai played for the London Kings, and the card, I haven't seen it a long time, you're catching me, is the card prop that was made for Deep Space Nine that was graphicked out. Damn it. I mean, this is Googleable. If you're not going to give me the context here all the way. The Buck Bokai trading card. The teams. Okay, it was made up for the card. So somebody, Mike, or who came up with the card, came up with that. The Gotham City Bats. Yeah, it's an in-joke. Who did the card? Do you want to know the whole story? I mean, I'm not pioneering anything here. Yeah, and the baseball card was on display at Vegas. Okay. Oh, Ricardo Delgado did the card. There we go. It was on the card, not part of any story. It was in joke on the card, just the same way you'd see Spacely Sprockets on the mall directory at the promenade. It was an in joke. Oh, I'm sorry. We call those Easter eggs now. But
Hi, this is 818.
there. But yes. Was that all what it was? Was it just to identify the lead ship and blow it away? Yeah, but this is based on the fact that you might only sell 1 or 2 or 3 a year in the beginning. If that's the only one you did, yeah. What now? We talked about that in Portal once in regard to Larry's Trekland. Is the term Star Trek not protected enough, or did they come up with some other meaning for the S and T? I've lost your train, gang. Well, Duralta, from your lips to the great bird's ears, of course they should be paid. It's just that they got, when you come into a job lower than somebody else, you might get raises every year, but you're still behind until when you have a minority that's been aggrieved in the society and they start out lower, you could boost them every year, but they're still going to be, unless you make big leapfroggy, but then that's seen as not being fair, even though it wasn't fair that people didn't start at the same place. It's same kind of progression. California Adventure was the only Disney park you ever went anywhere on Earth? Oh, I'm sorry. The first 10 or 15 years of Disney California Adventure, we just made fun of it. It was like, why would anybody want to come over here? Now they've totally fixed it. Just putting the cars right over there, put something Disney over there. Oh. Yeah. Well, are they branding it? It's just it was just a hashtag. It was just the abbreviation. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-oh, what did I do? What did I do, Dave? I don't know, Stingray. If you saw if you saw there was a moment when I was on the sidewalk with the writers down at the Disney gate, and Captain Sisko came up and Avery came up for a moment. It's just obvious it's not about money. It's just, is it an age thing? Is it a health issue? I don't know. I do not know. I think Sirach knows, and probably Ira, but Ira could not talk him into coming back on camera 5 years ago. So, for the documentary. Yes, there you go. Terry's been making the rounds. He would have made his first talk last year at Open House, but we couldn't work out the schedule. So maybe he'll be the last. He'll come around to Trek. Although we had him on the Trek Files in a non-spoilery way. Well, Duralt, I think it says to say that the whole world is not you. Sadly, I wish it was. Yes, this is right, Scott. Will has said he has a headcanon bit about not visiting his old people now. A lot like the Trill rules against... although Dax totally blew those out of the water when Jadzia went right back to associating with Curzon's best friend, which makes no sense. I just did that. Well, Rose, again, like Duralta, yes, you would think so, especially when you are the reason why other people up the food chain are making their money. Yeah. Won't be here until Tuesday. Oh, thank you, Scott, for finding the link. And here, Wesley would like nothing more than to visit his mom and meet his brother, not seeing them as a sacrifice he has to make in service of something so much bigger than anything else in this reality. This is a question that only you can answer, Zahir. I know, all the changes we have to get used to. Avery and Shatner's captains, this was a good thing, yes. How old is Mariner during season 3 of Picard? Would she succumb to the Borg, or would she just get the mother of all headaches? Well, Mariner, we've figured this out at some point, because she's far more deceptively older than you think she is. She's one of the world's oldest ensigns. She's trying to out ensign Harry Kim. I think, guys, I didn't want to waste time, looking at it. Oh God. She's close to 30 as an ensign, isn't she? Because Armina, her academy classmate, is a captain, and unless she's yeah, they're not putting a birth year on her. But she's in her early 30s, if not mid 30s. So by the time of this is 20 years later, she's in her 50s by this time of Picard. That's that's just some back of the envelope, back of the napkin scratching there. Shapeshifters in the Ferengi Alliance government. Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, she would not succumb to the Borg. Krista, there's, okay, I guess maybe you guys aren't, no, that's totally sarcastic. Why would a fellow writer tear down another writer for being on the script. He's a writer. He's in the WGA too. He's opening himself up to be ridiculed and ostracized if he was sincerely. If Bill Reed, you can't see the end of this because of the long piece. If David Reed was being sincere when he's yelling at him to come back, no, he was totally being sarcastic. That's what you all meant. Okay. People wishing the Titan A was renamed the Picard. Well, yes, it is. In fact, there are one or two ships that got named. Dave Blass has shared with me, where they went, oh, we just said that person is no longer alive. So it was like a for real thing. Took all. So now they're backpedaling on this. But that's one of the. But the other thing is, they just wanted to have an Enterprise as a potential hero ship again, because it had been 2 or 3 iterations. That was the main thing. They just wanted to have a hero ship be Enterprise again, after showing that it didn't have to be to lead a series. What are you saying here, Melanie? Fashion, the original miniskirt uniforms were current with the mods Go-Go era mid-60s. So Next Gen has a lot of fashion from the late 80s and 90s, hairstyle and clothing. I know. In fact, miniskirts were radical because you were telling those old white guy designers that you didn't care what they said. You were young and in control of your own clothing, and you were going to be radical. Could Pavel Chekhov have married Irina Galyulin? My mind has been stuck on Anton Chekhov's Russian accent, trying to make some headcanon sense of it. Yeah. Well, Anton Chekhov. Well, he had over the centuries, he turned it on when he wanted to imitate his father. So, and speaking about long-lived, but McCoy was 137 50 years before this. Yes, Rose, we're looking forward to Cisco Day, and good on Sirach and the gang over there too. Hey, May, you're sure Lolita would remember that color wheel? Yeah, well, and Janet does too, although I got him a little bit. Like I said, I can get halfway. It's the ones you didn't use so often that are the ones that you can Google it, though. There may be 2 slightly different variations, but all of them start off with blue, pink, yellow, green, and then on from there. Let's see. Well, Christoph, I think he says my father. Look, okay, you lurker. Yeah. Well, the color, and their color, if they're still the same way, they asterisk the line with the change in it, so you can instantly see what was the change. Yes. And then they're all dated, and the title page is issued new, so you can see what you're up to, so you know you're not missing something. Pavel and Irina's kids. Was Irina the thing? Yes. Very cool, Mona. Where'd you go? There. Tons of poetry and stories and working on a novel. Excellent. Oh, come on. Nobody jumped in to say hi to Dave. Come on, you guys. Where did we get to here? Well, yes, Duralta. As a matter of fact, I do, and I always get it confused. But I have a slide that I show at cons with all the changes. It's from second season of Voyager, and maybe the record was broken. I know the Berman era didn't break this record, but this was because Michael and Jerry and Brannon were all doing show notes, and they were fighting over the. Anyway, it's either deadlock or It's the other D script. Damn it. It's either deadlock or... You want to know the answer? I'll tell you the damn answer. Dreadnought. I'm pretty sure it's deadlock. Went through the color change wheel 2 times and went through like 22 colors of pages. Went through 10, then the next 10 repeat, and then a couple into the 3rd cycle. And I have a fan of the colors, and the final title page and the color changes go like 2/3 of the way down the page. It's insane. Now, if something in the Secret Hideout era broke that record, maybe. But I did. And I'm not talking about movies. Movies might go through all kinds of changes. They tend not to, though, on that anal of time. Boy, Duralta, you're just on question mode today. You're back in your old fine form. Yes, the story was pitched 6 years before it was aired because it was put aside because B'Elanna's status changed. We sold it a month before the pilot aired. 5 or 6. It was a baby show with baby characters. Yes. Neither can I, Melanie. Neither can I. Can't believe you guys didn't jump all over Dave while he was here. Okay. Okay. Remember when we were this is what your black hole of Star Trek now? Other warp ships, you keep thinking about the Bajoran ship Cisco built with the golden sails. Yeah, but it wasn't a warp ship. It was a solar sailor. It caught some near warp eddies and currents and accelerated. Feel like we're already in Terminator mode with AI? Well, there's been a lot of scary fear stuff going on, but yeah. Well, I'm sure they appreciate that, Donnie. David Gerald put out, no AI is ever going to create triples. Well, there you go. Okay. Opinions. This is turning into an ALA, Ask Larry Anything. I know. I want to know what's okay. So I'm going to let you all discuss your favorites of any series. I'm going to see if there's any hope for this topic today. Thank you. Thank you, Mona, for looking that up. It was the Mills brothers. Why did I not think of the Mills brothers? I didn't realize Louis Armstrong was backing them, but of course it's a total Mills Brothers song. Yeah. I was just thinking it was 30s and that was predating the Mills Brothers. People disconnected from what I said who were working in industry. I don't know. It's fine. I just think Easter eggs are something that you're looking for and you go find them. In jokes to me have nothing to do with being hidden. It's just what was the creativity behind it. It's the jokes inside of cudograms. That's what is an in joke to me. I know they're in there and I'm going to look at it. It's what's the ingenuity about it. Not just what it is. Okay. Well, I'm so glad I've engineered so many conversation threads. However, actually looking for this. Thank you, Cairo. Only people who were young enough, whose brains weren't finished maturing, right, and had changelings on their ship who could manipulate the transporter algorithm. Right. Otherwise, the ships were taken over. Well, what year was this, Christoph? Because they're always in talks to do some part of a park in some foreign country all the time. My friend Dave Rossi, these things sit on the board and they do ideas. And then when it comes down to putting hard money into construction, they always seem to evaporate for the last 20 years. Hey, Stingray. This is okay. I'm still looking for big picture questions enraged by the or brought on about by the recent treks. Was there any storyline that would have brought back Tashi, our sister, to meet Sela or discussed during Next Gen or Picard? Anyway, asked Terry about her return. I don't know if he's addressed this recently. This is why I like to have my conversations and cover everything in one sitting instead of getting things piecemeal out of everybody else's. I know they talked. I mean, Denise's, Tasha is included from her little hologram. But, they couldn't get Ro rescued by Kira and get Janeway. I mean, there were so many other things that they couldn't get in. The list would be long. Okay. Oh, you ship nerds. And you mini skirts. Okay. I'm, Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Scott. Bid him welcome. Okay, I finally got down to it. Yay. There we go. It's a gift from Q. Yes, thank you, Q, for these clothes. I'm going to put them on and take an image shot. Yeah. No, not Dreadnought, the other one. Yeah. Oh, well, that's sweet. We'll have to look for that, Mona. Okay. What's my favorite Starfleet uniform? It's not the topic. Yeah, this is an ALA or an AMA, Christoph. I didn't really, for a long time, sentimentally, it was the original series, but now there have been 47 million other variations. It sure would not have been the original Next Gens, the Next Gens Classic, the Monster Maroons. It's not. They're just too Reagan-esque 80s, too much brass non-gene bling, too showy and ranky. I don't know. We've only had half of 47 million the last 5 years. My underdog sense wants to stick up for the motion picture uniforms. So I don't have a favorite. It's too much thinking. Oh, well, there you go. This is a thing, Diana. Hey, so Dr. Girardi, Borgrati, was from an alternate timeline. Remember? She's from the future and came back into this one, and that's why she's still holding forth as a friendly sub-member of the Federation guarding that vortex portal, which to me I get very nervous about. Somebody should go back and check on that. But somebody else may be answering this too. The Borg Queen we see here is there was always a vagarity about, did Janeway beat a section of the Borg? Were there other far-flung, was that the Queen? that really communicated with everybody, and it's amplified across, a quadrant and a half. And so we kind of come back to, and there was a lot of, with different actresses played. So we kind of come back to that was the Borg Queen in just very small state and diminished state. And yeah, Janeway really did screw up the collective big time. And but the ones we saw, the one at the end of season 2 had nothing to do with the one we just saw again. And that's a very easily answered. And they were up on top of that at the beginning. Yeah, somebody beamed her. She or somebody beamed her off of that to a safety place. Sorry. What? No, don't be. I mean, did I say something to make you feel? No. It's all good. It's all good. I'm just getting. I'm just lambasting myself here. Learned it was played by Jane Seymour, then not. No, they had a body double. You're talking about the one in Picard season 3. There was a body double actress because it was such thankless acting. And then original voice work by the original voice. Okay, guys. Okay. I see that this was... why did nobody see the Borg ship parked in Jupiter? Well, it was inside Jupiter's red spot. Was she running shields? I don't know. If Jupiter Station is still there, that's some hiding. I know, but again, that's a question. That's a question for Terry, or maybe Dave comes out of lurking here. Oh, and watching Calypso again, the short trek, not tying it into season 5, pretty much a black hole. Well, it can always be picked up in the future. You can build a little bit of set, and that can be a sidebar. And the Discovery can not be the hero ship when it's stumbled into. But yeah, it's so far enough ahead in future that it can be an enigma for a long time. The way we are sitting on things from the original series, like the Preservers. Was the Preservers the being in the chase or not? We'll see what happens with all that. Gang, so yes, a body double stand-in. Yes. Enduring being there. Actually, a bit, but this was far more than your normal stand-in. Stand-in would normally not be all made up in the makeup and standing there and animating. Yes, absolutely. Okay, guys. Well, yes. This has been an interesting day. What'd we do? It's been, let's do this. I think this is the end of the chat here. Did anybody, I think the Borg Queen questions are the closest we got to what I was after today, which was anything that happened in the last year of Picard or even Discovery and Prodigy and Lower Decks cause you to reassess, bring up a question, something in Strange New Worlds from that century, ripple effects cause you to anywhere in the plane. Now we have an explosion of no, I think it's beyond. I have to double check this, but it's beyond. Interesting, Fathery. Since we know Zora can dream, you just assume Calypso was a dream. Well, that could be the ultimate cop-out retcon. Yeah. Hey, Analysis, I did not mean to stomp you down if I did, if it sounded like that was not my intention at all. The whole day kind of went this way. It was an experiment. This was an experiment. I just was thinking people would have burning questions that they were still sitting around and nobody was answering yet. And that would be cool. But bye, and thanks for coming by. Hope you make it back again. No, what? Okay. Anyway, we'll see you back sometime, right? Hey, everybody. I think that's done us for today. But thanks, everybody, for being here. And thanks for jumping in. And the community is great. Don't ever let me get sarcastic about something to the point of getting off track from the fact that we do have a good time here every week. Sometimes I try an experiment, and sometimes it's not always. You guys didn't get an invitation ahead of time. I spring it on you with no warning. But that's why I did. And I do want to give a little bit of an update there about the Writers Guild. And hopefully we'll be doing some more interactive pieces going out on the line again, and maybe talking to some more of the Trek writers who are walking the pickets, especially writers that you haven't seen or had means to meet before beyond the top level of the showrunners, especially even on Discovery, where the writing staff kind of kept turning over. But apparently the last 3 years, one of the seasons, obviously nobody has seen yet. They've all lived it. They've gotten through it. Your last thing, the audience last saw season 4 last fall, but to them, that's a year and a half ago of experience, maybe 2 years ago. So again, thanks everybody for being here. An experiment and an experience. Yes. It's good. Thank you guys for being here with me, and especially once again, thanking all these folks, boom, for helping me be able to do it. Our TTL club there and our live wires. Once again, if you want to jump on and help out, it's very simple. It's hopefully very small there, $5 and $10. You can always add more if you like, but I appreciate it. The $10 folks get access to first generation of Portal 47 backstage interviews across the eras and across the different interests. So that's that. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. Thanks to all of them. And once again, planning this idea. If you're coming to LA for business or pleasure, want to do something truly unique, we can make your own customized away mission. Go to 4 sites, location sites, including Paramount Pictures, which is a special day plan, but we can do that. But I will be hosting you around. We'll pick you up at your hotel, take you back at the end of the day. We'll have a fast food lunch in the middle of the day so we can spend most of it. But I plan on 6 hours with you. Trekland Treks, you pick out the places with my help. We'll coordinate it. It's a lot of fun. I do have planned days, and some of them I think we're going to be announcing soon if you want to come. The way I did with the cruise folks, we'll do a set schedule for a group, but I'm talking about one just for you and your party of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. TreklandTreks.com. Check that out. And yeah, the Trek Files is up again this week. Over on Facebook is where the docs are, but you can find the audio anywhere fine podcasts are caught. We are back with, it's Ben Robinson again. We found a bizarre, listen, folks, a phase 2 story bought and pitched that's never been cataloged anywhere else. So an all new glimpse at phase 2, but it was not put into motion for script in the original order of 13 scripts. The 2-hour pilot, which became motion picture, and the 11 stories beyond that. This is not one of those. So Ben Robinson, late of the great Small Ships of Eagle Moss, joins me to geek out about it and speculate. And it's got the most bizarre concept you've ever heard. You want to catch it on the Trek Files this week. Otherwise, around the horn, hey, it's at Larry Nemechek on Twitter, Larry Nemechek's Trekland here on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell and all this YouTube stuff. Love to have you with us on Instagram as well. And Facebook too, obviously. And portal47.net, your mini-con all year long, no matter where your center seat is. You want to be there with us. In fact, if you're in the Patreon and you want to, you could put more money in on Patreon, or you could just come join us in Portal 47. It's a great community. We've got a lot of Portal 47ers here. A week from tomorrow will be our European in midday. So our roundtables, the Ask Dr. Trek roundtables, actually have room for the Europeans. And speaking of Dave, I want to give a shout out to Dave. Dave and Liz Kosklowski were our guests last month, talking all things updating on season 3 Picard that just aired. So they're posting a lot on the socials. I always urge everybody to go post, to follow all your creatives on their Instagram and their Twitter and their Facebook. The writers are doing that right now and giving you the experience from the lines as they can, and keeping the intent alive. So we're doing all that. I have a special coming up. I don't have a card for it, but Saturday this month, not this Saturday, but a week from Saturday, on the 20th, Saturday the 20th, the latest monthly speaking, the Hailing Frequencies Open sessions from the new Nichelle Nichols Foundation. I am very thrilled, excited, and honored to be on their advisory board. And I'm going to host an interview panel. A panel is more than one person. This idea that panels are solo things, that's a spotlight hour. That's a Q&A. A panel is a panel discussion. You need at least 2 people for a panel. But this is going to be a solo. In the spirit of Nichelle and their personal shared friendship and work history, I'm going to be doing an interview hour, a spotlight hour with none other than the great Walter Koenig. So Walter and I are going to have an hour. It's me talking to him, but all things about Nichelle, their friendship, their focus, their years together, him telling stories about her, his memory of things that she did in and out of the show, and any time along the ways that he tried to support her or the way she tried to support him. So that's going to be at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on that. It's at our old Life Support Live hour, now that I think about it. So if you used to tune in for Life Support Live with Dr. Ali, I'm going to be at that same hour a week from Saturday on the 20th with Walter. It's the latest in the Nichelle Nichols Foundation Hailing Frequencies Open speaker series. It's one of the first things we're doing at the foundation before we build up the scholarship fund enough to be able to reward young people across the spectrum and support them in everything that Nichelle would have wanted to do: space and communications and understanding and diversity and small business and women's issues and people of color, and just making the future as bright for as many people as we could, which is what Nichelle was up for. That's coming that day. So I will talk about that next week again. Other than that, gang, thanks so much for joining us here Tuesday again. It's okay if I hit you broadsides with that question. It's totally fine. I don't think I've forgotten anything. Thank you. I see the Nichelle Nichols Foundation. Thank you, Dave, for posting the the links there. There's the basic link for the foundation. It's NichelleNichols.foundation. There you go. And there's a YouTube channel. And Timothy, I would love to have you on a tour. Awesome. As soon as you can make it go, make it happen. That's it for everybody. For me, everybody, thanks so much. Hey, please, as we continue to repopulate the world with our bodies, please stay healthy, do all the things. Something that is not evaporated is the crazy that's out there. So please stay woke. Check the sources when you come across interesting media bits. Beware on the blue checks of Twitter. That's all I can say. Yeah. And trek well, everybody.